What's up, people? Joe Winko here, your favorite Hawaiian guy, and here's my next episode of Joe Winko Talk. Before I get to what I'm going to be talking about, I just want to announce that today is actually my birthday. Yeah, proud Sagittarius, December 5th. And I'm not going to be telling you guys how old I'm turning today, but if you watch this whole episode of Joe Winko Talk and are at least somewhat decent at math, you'll eventually find out. So, this is going to be a morbid and gloomy and sad episode of Joe Winko Talk, and it is going to be a bit personal too, but not really until the ending, honestly. And this might also be a strange episode of Joe Winko Talk as well. But what I want you guys to remember is a major point of my YouTube videos is to show you guys what goes on inside my autism mind and how my mind works, really. So, recently I've been watching a lot of videos about the 9/11 terrorist attacks on September 11th, 2001. And there's actually a lot that I have to say about 9/11, but this specific video is going to be about a casualty of 9/11. This episode of Joe Winko Talk is going to be about Edna Cintron. I remember watching a video about 9/11 and hearing her mentioned in the video and seeing her in the video back when I was a kid. So that's her right there. And she was and still is a very special person, and her spirit definitely lives on. And I wanted to talk about her in my birthday episode of Joe Winko Talk. I thought that that would be an appropriate subject for today. And that may seem really strange, but when I finally get to the end, it will all make sense why I wanted to talk about her in my birthday episode of Joe Winko Talk. So I only learned some details about Etna's life from this one video that was uploaded by a YouTuber who was using the name Evil Intentions. I'll have a link to the video I saw about her in the pinned comments of this video. But Etna was brought to New York when she was 5 years old by her mother, which was around the time of 1959-1960, during something called the Great Migration. She was born in Puerto Rico. I never knew Etna at all, but she was a very special person, and she was described as having a heart of gold, and she was really kind and down to earth. She got married to her husband named William, and they were together for 12 years. He said that whenever Etna got off of work and whenever she came home, she would always cook for William, and she wouldn't even change out of her work clothes. Like, as soon as she got home, she would immediately start cooking for him, and she took very good care of her husband. She was also a very beautiful woman as well. Let me show you guys some more pictures of her right here. There's some more pictures of her. She was known for her curly hair and her green eyes, and that reminded me of myself because I also have curly hair and green eyes. And she was also an islander as well, like I am, because I'm part Hawaiian. She wasn't the same islander as me because she's Puerto Rican, I'm Hawaiian, but still an islander nonetheless, really. And forgive me for pointing this out, but this was just something that I found interesting. She looks really white and Caucasian looking, and all of her pictures. But she was Puerto Rican though. But the thing with Puerto Rican people is that a lot of them are mixed with European, and she was also living in New York, so that was another thing too, because she wasn't on the islands, didn't have the sunlight like you do on the islands. And I had to throw that in because I thought that was interesting, really. And it also kind of reminded me of myself, too, back when I was living in Wisconsin. Another thing about Etna is that she was really fascinated by angels, and she had a hobby of collecting angels, like artwork of angels or figurines of angels, and she liked being surrounded by her artwork and figurines of angels that she would get and that she would collect. She also had a lot of family members in New York City, and at the beginning of her life, her and her family were not quite wealthy at all. But over time, she worked her way up and she became successful. Her and her husband owned a flower shop in New York, and Etna was also the administrative assistant for a company called Marsh and McLennan, and she had an office on the 97th floor of the North Tower at the World Trade Center in New York. Sadly, Etna was murdered on September 11th, 2001, along with 357 other employees who were working in the North Tower that horrible day. At 8:46 a.m., the plane struck the North Tower, and the impact zone was between the 92nd floor and the 99th floor, right around the area that Etna was working in. In the North Tower, everyone on the 91st floor and below survived, but everyone on the 92nd floor and above died. But many people in the impact zone and above did survive the initial impact, and one of those people were Etna. They actually caught her on camera after the plane had crashed into the World Trade Center. She was standing in the crater where the plane had tore through, and she was waving, and she was clearly trying to catch someone's attention, and I'm 100% certain that Edna believed that she would be rescued. Lots of people ended up jumping out of the Twin Towers when they got hit, the people above the impact zone, because the choices were that they would either burn inside the building and die inside the building or jump to their deaths. But Etna never gave up hope. She was standing up there the whole entire time, even when the second plane struck the South Tower, and even after the South Tower collapsed. She was up there the whole entire time, all the way until the North Tower collapsed. There is even a picture of her just seconds before the North Tower came down. And from 8:46 a.m., after the plane had struck the North Tower, to 10:28 a.m., when the North Tower finally collapsed, she was up there the whole entire time, and she was just waiting to be rescued. But apparently there was no way to save her at all. She was 46 years old when she died. I felt really sorry about her when I watched the video about her and saw what happened to her and what she went through. And I really wanted to do a video of me visiting her grave and leaving a flower by it. But another tragic thing is it doesn't seem like they ever found her body at all after that happened. I tried looking her up on Find a Grave, and there is a memorial listed for her, but it's at the World Trade Center memorial site, and it's not her grave at all. I've been thinking about her a lot these past couple of days, because it's been a few days since I first saw the YouTube video where they were describing everything that she went through. And I felt very sorry for her, as I was saying earlier, and my imagination started to go crazy. I started wondering, would there have been any way to save her, honestly? And another thing I wondered is, while that was all going on, when those planes were hit and she was up there the whole entire time, I mean, clearly people noticed that she was up there now, but at the time that was all happening, did anyone see her up there waving? And did anyone notice that she was actually up there? And as I said, my imagination went crazy, and I started wondering, would there be any way to save her at all? And then I imagined, and I'm not exactly sure if they would have been able to do this in real life, but I imagined having a helicopter flown up there, firing a rope over by her so she could grab onto it, climb across it, and be rescued. And I drew a picture of that because I felt really sorry for her, and it wasn't fair. And I drew that picture because I felt really bad for her, and I wish she would have survived, because I'm convinced the whole entire time she was up there, she was convinced that she was going to be rescued and that she was going to live. That's why she never jumped at all, and that's why she never gave up hope. And there's not many people who could not give up hope like that, really. It takes a very strong and very brave person to hold on. But she did, all the way till the end. So, here's where it gets really personal. And I first want to say that I'm not suicidal at all. I don't want to kill myself or anything like that. But how this all ties into my birthday is that a psychic actually told me that I was going to die a day before my 45th birthday, when I'm 44 years old, and a day before my 45th birthday. And she said that I was going to commit suicide a day before my 45th birthday. Now, that's not until a long ways from now. I mean, I'm not in my 40s. I'm not even in my 30s yet. So that's not till a long ways from now. But this psychic told me, she was pretty vague, but she said that she was sensing that the reason why I end up committing suicide a day before my 45th birthday is because I get depressed, because I feel like I'm getting old, and I feel like no one likes me because I'm getting old, and that's why I end up committing suicide on a day before my 45th birthday. And when she told me that, that did seem a bit plausible, really. I don't know what state of mind I'm going to be at when I'm 45 years old, because as I said, that's a few decades away. Well, that's more than a decade away. But another thing that I noticed is that if I die at 44 years old, 45 years old, that would make me roughly a year younger than Etna at the time of her death. But that's not all of it either. Etna was standing up in that tower. She was in a crater. She was trapped up there, and she was out there the whole entire time. She did not jump. She was convinced that she would survive, and I feel that she was convinced that she would survive. And this may sound very weird, and I know it's my autism mind that makes me think like this, and I'm not even sure if I'm explaining this right, but I kind of feel like it's inspiring how she never gave up hope. And that's kind of what how I see Etna, a symbol that you should never give up hope at all. And I'm not going to forget about her because I definitely remembered seeing a video about her when I was a kid, a video when she was mentioned back when I was a kid and watching videos about 9/11. And because I really never forget about any deceased people I read about online, especially someone like this. And I think that's how Etna should be remembered, as a strong-willed person who never gave up hope at all. And I really wish it would have been possible to save her. I mean, clearly they weren't prepared for something like that to happen. I mean, before 9/11, no one ever thought of airplanes being flown purposely into towers at all. But I wish there really would have been a way to save her and pull her out of the tower, like in that picture. But that's why I wanted to talk about Etna in this episode of Joe Winko Talk, because I felt sorry for her, and I thought it was inspiring how she never gave up hope at all. And I know that sounds weird, that sounds very strange, but that's just, I feel like she would appreciate being remembered as a person who never gave up hope at all. And I really wish she would have been rescued. Now, I know this was a gloomy episode of Joe Winko Talk, but that's just what I wanted to talk about in this episode of Joe Winko Talk. And if you guys seriously want to know how old I'm turning today, I was 5 years old when 9/11 happened in 2001. 5 years old, and I turned 6 on December 5th, 2001. And look at the date, you guys do the math, and you guys figure it out. But I felt really sorry for Edna, and I don't ever want her to be forgotten, really. I really wish I could do a video of me leaving flowers by her grave. I mean, I only read online that they never found her body at all, but it could be possible that they actually did, but I'm just not sure. But I drew that picture in memory of her, and I wish we could have saved her in real life. But now I think she has become a symbol to never give up hope at all. And I think she would appreciate that. At least to me, she's a symbol to never give up hope. When you think things are really bad and nothing is going to work out, she just kept holding on the whole entire time. And she never lost hope. And that's how she should be remembered. And I think she would appreciate that. And I think she does appreciate that, because her spirit still lives on forever, just like all the others. So that's basically it for this episode of Joe Winko Talk. Sorry it was a really sad and really depressing episode of Joe Winko Talk, but the main purpose of this is just to show that Etna is a symbol for not giving up hope, and that's a positive way to remember her. Even though it's horrible what happened to her, I mean, whenever I think of her, I'm just gonna think to never give up hope at all, just like Etna never did. So that's basically it. Don't forget to like, don't forget to comment, don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to like me on Facebook, and follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr, and let me know what you thought of what I said for Etna in this video. So, yeah. Peace out, people.